Welcome to Almanac North. I'm Maria Hewitt.
And I'm Brett Scott. Thank you for joining us. Tonight, air quality has been a major concern in our region this summer.
Meteorologists and health experts join us today to share what you need to know when we see another hazy day.
This story and much more just ahead, but first, headlines this evening. This year marks the 50th anniversary of Minnesota's Clean Indoor Air Act, the first law of its kind in the nation. Enacted in 1975, the law was groundbreaking in protecting workers and the public from secondhand smoke in indoor spaces. Over the years, it's evolved to include bans on smoking in restaurants, bars, schools, and more recently, vaping and cannabis use. Secondhand smoke can cause heart disease, lung cancer, and serious harm to children, including asthma and sudden infant death syndrome. While exposure has dropped dramatically, disparities remain, especially among low-income families and those living in multi-unit housing. Health officials say the only way to fully protect people is to keep indoor spaces completely smoke and vape free. You can visit quitpartnermn.com for more information.
More than 4,600 acres of northern Minnesota forest land are now permanently protected and publicly owned thanks to a partnership between the Conservation Fund and St. Louis County. The land was originally part of an industrial timber portfolio owned by PotlatchDeltic, a real estate investment trust focused on sustainable forestry and lumber production. To prevent fragmentation, the Conservation Fund began acquiring the land in 2018. Now the property has been transferred to St. Louis County for long-term public management. The forest land will support wildlife habitat, sustainable timber production, and public recreation like hunting and hiking. Officials say it's a smart investment in both conservation and local economies. The project is part of a larger effort to preserve Minnesota's working forests and keep them accessible for future generations.
And finally, 2 roads in the Gunflint Ranger District are now closed due to storm damage from July 23rd. The Forest Service has issued a closure order for Trout Lake Road and Ball Club Lake Road to ensure public safety during the ongoing repairs. The closures impact access to Trout, Ball Club, Thrush, and Bath Lakes and will remain in effect for about a year. For updates, contact the Gunflint Ranger District or visit the Superior National Forest website.
As we all know, it's been a tough summer for air quality. What goes into issuing air quality alerts and how do they track air pollution? Our team got the details earlier this week when they met with Alex Ozer, an air quality meteorologist for the Wisconsin DNR. Let's take a look.
My name is Alex Ozer, and I am the air quality meteorologist for the DNR in Wisconsin. So far we've had over 20 days with an active PM 2.5 air quality advisory in the state of, at least somewhere in the state of Wisconsin, whereas last year in 2024 we only had 3 days in total. So very big difference. 2023, just for reference, was also over 20 days. So, PM 2.5, that's the federally regulated pollutant that we find in wildfire smoke. And, the reason that this in particular pollutant is, potentially causing health issues is because of how small it is. So the reason it's called PM 2.5 is that it's very small matter that's 2.5 microns or smaller. And you're able to breathe this in. And when you breathe this in, it can get pretty deep into your respiratory tract. And if it even gets deep enough into your respiratory tract, it can get into your bloodstream. And all of these things can cause complications. And they are more likely to cause complications in sensitive groups and people with asthma and other respiratory issues and things like that. The states have a lot of monitoring equipment, and this is very high-tech monitoring equipment, and it's federally supported. These are instruments that the federal government deems high enough quality to be providing accurate data, and these are scattered all throughout the state. So in terms of viewing real-time air quality data, these are one of the things that we rely on pretty heavily. But recently, over the last 5 or so years, low-cost air quality sensors have also really become popular, which in the end is a very good thing because it allows us to see a much denser network of air quality observations. So whenever we're kind of looking or we're within an actual event like we just were, I'm relying pretty heavily on that. I'm able to look at maps such as the Air Now Fire and Smoke map that EPA put out. that has a combination of both the federal monitors and the low-cost sensors. So you really can see a pretty nice painted picture of where the high pollutants are at. Another thing that we'll look at when we're kind of thinking about forecasting into the future is you can kind of look at, all right, we know where the fires are because the satellites are able to detect them and we're able to kind of see the smoke plumes as they're forming. You can then kind of think, okay, well, in this general area where we know we already have fires, what is the future fire weather looking like? One of the indices that we look at is the hot, dry, and windy index. And so basically, it's just, those three parameters really control how strong a fire can end up being and how quickly it will grow. So if you have fires, and maybe they're not even that large, but it's about to be a stretch of very hot, dry, and windy, like a week of that, then it's very likely that those fires are going to grow very, very large and burn very, very intensely. And these things are going to create a lot of smoke. So that's another thing that you have to factor in as you're sort of forecasting into the future is you're never able to know where a new fire is going to start, but if you have new fires or existing fires, how likely is it that these fires are going to grow and start to produce large amounts of smoke? Especially when it comes to smoke, one of the main things that we have to kind of look at is just how the smoke is moving throughout the atmosphere. In an ideal situation, and what honestly happens pretty frequently is the smoke is being created by these fires that are very, very hot. So the air around there is also very hot. And, hot air, just like a hot air balloon, is going to rise in the atmosphere so long as it is warmer than the air around it. So a lot of the times with this fire smoke, we will just see the smoke rise up into the upper atmosphere, up into the jet stream, kind of up where jets are flying, and then it's able to just disperse and move away. And again, you'll see some maybe nice sunsets, but other than that, there's no impacts at the surface. So one of the first things that we're kind of looking at is, what are the things that are going to keep the smoke at the surface? So as I was mentioning, high pressure systems is one of those main things. So yeah, we're always keeping an eye on that. And the other thing that we look at pretty frequently is precipitation, because we kind of consider this and think about this as a little bit of a cleansing mechanism for the atmosphere. And so, if you end up having a lot of rain that goes through an area, and it typically takes like fairly heavy rain, then in general, you think about that as a positive, that's going to help to clean out the atmosphere and basically deposit the smoke, the particles onto the surface. And then you don't have to worry about breathing them in since they've been deposited at the surface.
And you can head to airquality.wi.gov or pca.state.mn.us. Make sure you write that down for the latest air quality alerts near you. And now to learn more about how air quality impacts our bodies, Aspire with St. Luke's Emergency Medicine Doctor Physician Dylan Wyatt is here with us. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
Yes. It's been a busy summer.
Busy
lot of
summer.
smoke.
Yeah, busy summer and a dirty summer. Thankfully, we finally get a beautiful day.
Right. The first beautiful day in a long time, and we're talking about the smoke.
Yeah, we're gonna be a bit of downers here to talk about it, but it's important, right? It's important to go over this stuff because if you don't know, you can't take steps to actually protect yourself and protect your families.
Yeah, so we have had 20 air quality alert days this year so far. How bad is it to be out in those high air quality alert days?
So we had talked in the pre-show a little bit about kind of comparing it to smoking cigarettes, and the sort of saying is that an air quality of 150 to be out there for about 8 hours is like smoking 3/4 of a cigarette. And that really speaks more to how bad cigarettes are rather than how not bad being out in the air is. It can be very bad, especially for folks who have pre-existing conditions, and for children, it can have serious effects on their bodies. And it's not just immediate effects. Those particles are so small, the PM2.5 particles, go across the barriers in the lungs into the bloodstream. And so they affect the whole body. It's a bloodborne problem at that point. And those effects can linger even when the air has cleared up.
So it's not just in your lungs, it's a full body thing.
Yes.
And some of the symptoms, I was feeling kind of off, and I have these little headaches and whatever.
Yeah.
And then I'd be like, oh, that's connected to the air quality.
Yes, and that's how it gets you. It's not, it doesn't change, oxygen diffusion. It's not an oxygenation problem. Those particles are literally in our blood, causing inflammation to our whole bodies, which is why it can have such a severe impact, especially on the very young, the very old, and those with those medical conditions.
Now this impacts children and also elderly and middle-aged folks the same, correct?
Yes, it can affect anyone, regardless of their background, their age, their pre-existing conditions. Certainly some people are at higher risk, but it can affect anyone severely.
So what can we do? Can we still go outside? Do we have to stay in our house with our blinds closed?
AC on,
Yeah.
no windows open.
Like with anything, it's all about relative risk and accepting how much risk can you tolerate and can your family members tolerate and can you safely tolerate. For those of us that are sort of healthy and don't have any pre-existing conditions, maybe we can go outside for a little bit to do some gardening or a low physical activity exercise in air qualities between 50 and 100. We probably shouldn't be out there for too long, but we can do it for a little while. Maybe wear an N95 mask that blocks out 95% of those particles to extend that time. But for those who are young or older, or when those air quality numbers really climb high, avoiding high intensity physical exercise is really important. You're breathing in more, you're getting more of those particles into your system, and trying to limit your time outside can make a massive difference.
And it's hard when summer in Duluth in our region is
Mm-hmm.
beautiful, and particularly with little ones, we have camping trips planned, and summer's kind of the time to do a lot of those activities. How do you balance, trying to keep them safe indoors, but then also making sure you're getting them outside and doing activities that they love?
Yeah, you feel like as a parent, as a fellow parent, you feel like you're trying to balance on a scale their physical and their mental health. Them being able to go outside and play, but also not wanting them to inhale too much smoke. And there's not a perfect answer for that. Watching the air quality can be a really good way to try and gauge that, right? Some days like today where it's closer to 50, get them outside, let's get out there. If your kids are older, their ability to tolerate wearing masks will open up a lot more opportunities for lower intensity exercises. And then for others, it's going to be just moment to moment, day to day. And looking at maps that have multiple data points and multiple sensors, so you can see, as sometimes it is, different parts of town have different air qualities. They may not, there's not going to be a 30, 40 point difference, but a difference in 20, 25 points can be the difference between wanting to stay inside with your filters on and your air conditioning going and being able to go outside and do some low intensity activities with a mask on.
When should somebody seek medical attention? Say I have a headache for multiple days on it. Should I come in, or how should we go?
If you feel like you have a little bit of a cold, a little headache, a little achy, a little tired, probably try and stay inside, run those filters, and give your body a break. If you start to have trouble breathing, chest pain, very severe headaches, or if you're with someone or one of your loved ones is like, you're not acting normally, something is weird here, you should probably come in for medical evaluation, because remember, it affects your whole body. It gets into that bloodstream, and because of that, we've been seeing more strokes, we've been seeing more heart attacks, and really early detection, as always, is key for that.
So you mentioned some of the short-term symptoms, but do we know of long-term issues with, being like, oh, I just want to go outside, I'm just going to risk it?
Totally. We don't, and the problem is there's not a ton of data on this. The best data sets we have are for firefighters who are routinely exposed to higher than normal levels of these particles, and we know that they suffer from higher rates of heart attack, stroke, Alzheimer's, pulmonary disease, lots of serious problems that you don't want to suffer for. And we don't have good data for children. That's the other thing. We don't have good data for kids. And so there's a lot of potential concerns for them that we just are unknown. So it may feel okay in the short term if you're healthy, but just know there is a risk there. And we have decent data for adults that shows that's really not a our
So keep
we
our
are the
eye.
experiment right now.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I don't
Great.
like that,
Yeah.
but
Sorry. That's what I took out of it.
Keep our eye on the
little bit, yeah.
alerts.
And I'm
Yeah.
sure we'll have in the next 3-5 years, we'll probably have better data looking at kids around here, and especially, the poor kids, especially native kids up near the fires themselves, who are being the most affected by these. They'll be able to give us the most data, unfortunately. But right now, we're kind of in the dark for a lot of this stuff.
Yep. Stay safe.
Yes.
Thank
stay
you so
safe.
much for joining us.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
Well, now it's time for a few words from Dennis Anderson. Denny.
Well, thank you, Maria. I'm Dennis Anderson, and this is Denny's Desk. Being outside is synonymous with being in the Northland. From fishing and hiking to kayaking and summer youth sports, outdoor life isn't just recreation, it's tradition. But lately, our skies are telling a different story. This summer, once again, wildfire smoke from Canada drifted across our region. It brought with it hazy horizons and air quality alerts that urged caution or even complete avoidance of outdoor activity. What used to be an occasional concern is now becoming a more consistent problem. And this is not a fluke. It's becoming the new normal. Climate shifts and more intense wildfire seasons mean we may need to plan around air quality every single summer, not just during rare events. It's a difficult balance. Public health experts rightly warn that smoke at high ozone levels can seriously impact our lungs, especially for children, older adults, and those with asthma or heart conditions. At the same time, for many of us, our families and our friends, the outdoors are a lifeline. When a park visit, summer camp, or a fishing trip gets canceled, it's even more than disappointing. It disrupts the rhythm of life here in the Northland. So how do we move forward? Move with awareness, with flexibility, and with the same sense of resilience that has long defined the people of this region. We may not be able to change the skies, but we can protect each other, adapt, and still find joy in the place we call home. And so this has been Denny's Desk. And now back to you, Maria.
Thank you, Danny. We have a few more headlines to share with you this evening. A man working at Washburn Iron Works was taken into custody by ICE agents on July 21st following a reported DUI arrest in Iron River. The man, employed through a Chicago-based staffing agency, was not directly employed by the company. Local police assisted ICE but did not participate in the arrest. Community members, including Washburn resident Albany Eckert, voiced concern at a recent Bayfield County board meeting about the broader implications of such arrests, especially without local law enforcement agreements with ICE in place.
The land of 10,000 lakes is taking a big step toward cleaner construction. Minnesota is awarding over $260,000 to grants to support the development of environmental product declarations for key building materials such as concrete and asphalt. The funding goes to the Aggregate and Ready Mix Association, the Minnesota Asphalt Pavement Association, and McNamara Contracting. The declarations will track the carbon footprint of construction materials used in public projects across the state. Officials say it's part of Minnesota's Buy Clean initiative aimed at lowering emissions in the building sector while helping smaller productions compete in a growing clean materials market. It's a move toward more transparency, smarter choices, and long-term sustainability in how we build the future.
And finally, you'll remember that young black bear with a jar stuck on its head. It is now safe and free. The 2-year-old female was tracked across northern Wisconsin, traveling nearly 50 miles through Sawyer, Bayfield, and Douglas counties. Wildlife staff finally located and safely sedated the bear near Cable over the weekend. The jar was removed, the bear was examined and tagged, then released into the wild, a bit skinny but healthy and already feeding on berries.
Well, finally tonight we are joined by Shannon Watson, Executive Director for Majority in the Middle, here to talk about an initiative started in response to the political violence earlier this summer. Shannon, thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for the invitation.
So tell us briefly, what is Majority in the Middle?
Majority in the Middle is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization. We work on civility in politics, creating opportunities for people to connect, and then opportunities to react to this tragedy.
What an important mission.
Yeah.
So tell us about the reaction to the political violence that happened in June, and how people can get involved.
So we came together with several peers in what I call the good democracy space. There are a lot of organizations, from Braver Angels to the Citizens League to different churches and other organizations, all kind of working on this civility issue. Obviously, political violence is a significant escalation of incivility in politics. And so we didn't necessarily have those resources. Luckily, somebody in our network has worked on these issues in other states and in other countries for years. And so he really helped guide some of the response. And what we did is we put together an initiative called What We Can Do Weeks, because that was answering everybody's question. What can we do? Here's what we can do. We set out 2 weeks to have events so people could learn, people could connect, people could sort of very deliberately engage in these spaces, and different organizations could host events and
initiatives
that made sense to them and their work, their constituencies. And so that kickoff was July 31st, and it runs through the 16th. That's What We Can Do Weeks.
What does a week like that look like for the people who are taking part in it?
Yeah.
Do you see people who are on one side and on the other? And
I think part of the challenge when we're talking about crossing divides in politics is that we assume that everybody's political sort of voting history is how we should identify. Are you and I the same, or are we different? A lot of this is about connecting with the people in your life. Not necessarily letting the politics be center stage or get in the way of that. So it just so happened that National Night Out was on Tuesday, fell within this set of weeks, and so we encourage people to go to their National Night Out. We also have been doing a lot of Zoom events where we have experts talk about how to engage with local government, how to overcome division. We had an author talking about a book that she wrote called High Conflict, which I recommend super, super highly.
You're planning to potentially bring an event to Duluth.
Yeah.
What would that look like, and why Duluth?
Why Duluth? Number one, because we were asked to, which is awesome. So the first kickoff event of What We Can Do Weeks was the signing of a civic pledge for a stronger Minnesota. And people, if they're interested in the pledge, they could find it on the website. But we had a lot of people come to a space in St. Paul and sign that pledge, say that we don't condone political violence. We're going to take action against language that incents violence, and we're going to do the hard work of finding common ground. Those are things that a lot of people find it very easy to agree on. And so one of the people who was signing the pledge that day, she said, "Hey, by the way, she's from northern Minnesota," and she said, "I talked to a friend of mine in Duluth, and they weren't able to be here, but said, hey, could we do something like this in Duluth?" And I said, "Yes, absolutely." So that'll probably be mid-September.
where did you get the passion for the work that you're doing today?
Probably my parents. My dad is what I have started calling a legacy Republican. He's been a Republican for a very long time. My mom is a Democrat or a libertarian, depending on the day and the issue. And so I literally learned bipartisanship growing up at the dinner table. And so this idea that people can't be in relationship if you don't vote the same, that's a really weird concept to me, because I have watched what happens when you do make it work and when you don't let that get in the way of your relationship every day of my life. And they've 55 years of marriage, I think it is. And so they should, it can work.
Yeah, civility is possible. You saw it over a plate of spaghetti.
Absolutely, yes. They, one of their favorite things to do is to go vote together, knowing full well they will likely cancel each other's vote out, but that makes it really important for both of them to go.
It's a date.
It's a date, it absolutely is. Yes.
Shannon, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for what you do.
Absolutely, thank you so much.
Well, before we go, we want to let you know that our August fundraiser kicks off this weekend. It's a great opportunity to support all the work we do here at PBS North. When you give, you help make programs like this one possible, shows that educate, engage, and reflect life here in the Northland. Your support allows us to take a closer look at the stories shaping our communities.
And you get to hang out with us, right?
That's right.
When you tune into PBS North, you're watching shows that are selected with this community in mind. And it's support from viewers like you that make it all happen. Giving is easy. Just visit pbsnorth.org or call 218-788-2844. Every gift is a direct investment in the programming, informing, inspiring, and connecting neighborhoods across the Northland. And when you make your contribution now, we've got some great ways to say thank you.
When you support PBS North, you're investing in stories that reflect the spirit of our region. and the people who call it home. With a sustaining gift of $7 a month, we'll thank you with our PBS North mug. Perfect for your favorite hot beverage. And a daily reminder that you're helping keep public broadcasting strong here in the Northland. At $10 a month, you can choose the Along the Lake puzzle by Minnesota artist Adam Turman. This vibrant, colorful puzzle captures the journey up the North Shore, from Duluth to Grand Portage, with fun little details tucked into every piece. And when you give $15 a month as a sustainer, we'll thank you with a digital subscription to the New York Times. A full year of unlimited access to trusted coverage of our news, culture, food, and more. Anytime and anywhere on your smartphone, tablet, or computer. No matter which gift you choose, the most important thing is your support. Your donation ensures PBS North can continue to serve this community with local programs, thoughtful documentaries, and conversations that matter. Make your gift today by calling 218-788-2844 or visiting pbsnorth.org. Thank you for standing with PBS North.
What a good way to end the show. That's it for this week's show. Go out and enjoy your weekend. I'm Brett Scott.
And I'm Maria Hewitt. Thank you for joining us. Good night.